What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. In today's video, we are doing a full face of new makeup from Dior Beauty. I have the new Dior Backstage Warm Essentials palette. I also have the new Bronzed Glow blush. I also have the new Bronzed Glow Lip Maximizer that I'm wearing on my lips today. We're going to be doing 2 looks with these products, so if you want to hang out with me today and hear all of my completely honest thoughts, then keep watching. Let's kick things off with the new Dior Backstage eyeshadow palette. This is number 003 Warm Essentials. I'll show you some daylight close-ups and swatches. I was particularly attracted to this palette, not only because I really love warm tones, but also I just really like the balance of colors and finishes in this palette. I really appreciate that in the top row, we have some sort of like softer, neutral, more everyday types of shades. Then in the middle row, we have some pops of color that we can play around with. And then in the bottom row, we have some deeper shades in case we want to sort of smoke it out and create more of an evening look. Now we also have a balance of mattes, satins, and shimmer shades, which I will demo for you guys in the 2 looks that we create today. This is made in France. It is talc free. There's no harsh scent or fragrance or anything like that. And I will mention, friends, it doesn't say that it's limited edition on the box or on the website, but in my experience, these kind of are limited edition. Like once they come and once they sell out, we really never see them again. So I can't really say how long it's going to be around, but if you're interested in this palette, I would get it sooner rather than later. The other thing that I want to call out is that there is another palette on the Dior website called Warm Neutrals. Do not get them mixed up. They are not the same palette. This one is going to be a little bit more vibrant. It has more of like these pops of color, whereas that one is more of a very, very neutral, kind of neutral to warm leaning palette. And I noticed that that one is for sale on a lot of other websites. So just kind of keep in mind, this one is 003 Warm Essentials, not Warm Neutrals. Real quick before we get into the demos with this palette, I wanted to show you a quick side-by-side with the Copper Essentials that they launched recently this past holiday. This was the one Backstage palette that I thought might be a little bit similar, but I feel like it is quite different. This one has more bronzes. It has more like reddy tones, whereas this new one, the Warm Essentials, you do have a lot more softer shades to play around with. This to me is more of like an autumnal palette, and this new one here is more of like a summertime palette. I also want to call out that the Warm Essentials doesn't have these kind of like creamy base shades, or I guess you could use this as a topper shade as well that we've seen in some of the other palettes as of late. So it doesn't have one of those, but it does have some really beautiful highlight shades here in the corner that I'm going to use in the demo in just a second. So let's head on over to that. Let's get things off with a little bit of a softer look. I'm going to start this off with the matte shade here on the top row. This is the lightest matte that is in the palette. Just a nice, really soft, light brown, a transitional shade that you can use to build up a little bit of depth in the crease. Start off an everyday look, and that is blending out beautifully. Next, I'm using the peach gold here in the top row. This is described as a satin. This also looks like a really beautiful everyday shade. I do recommend tapping off your brush with these shadows just because the formula is a little bit of a drier formula. You get some kickback. However, I find that just because these shadows aren't that glittery, you don't have to worry about fallout too much. Just kind of helps more with the application. So as you can see there, it is very much a satin. It looks like it's going to be more of like a high shine metallic in the pan, but it's not. This is Dior Backstage, so it's going to be pretty subtle, nothing too crazy. I think I'm also going to take that shade and just put a little bit here along the lower lash line. I'm using a BK Beauty 203. This right here could be a very basic look for daytime. However, I am gonna add just a little bit of color because I want to play around with more shades in the palette. I'm gonna go into this one right here, which is called Tangerine, and this is described as a shimmer. I'm taking a fluffy brush because this is gonna be more of a light look, and I'm going to work that on the outer part of the eye just to get like a little pop of color. I'm getting a little bit of color, but I kind of want to go in, I think, with a more precise brush. Let's try that. I'm using a number 14 just so I can get a little bit more density, and I'm going to focus that here, right there on like the little outer part of the eye. I definitely see the tangerine right there. I just wanted a little bit more pigmentation to kind of make it pop, a nice beautiful summertime look. If you don't like oranges, you're probably not gonna like that shade. You're probably also not gonna like this coral shade. We'll use the coral shade hopefully in the next look. You know what? I changed my mind. I actually do want to go into this shade. This is called Poppy Coral, and this is also a shimmer. I plan out these looks and then sometimes, I don't know, I just feel like I want to go in with another shade. I am going to be more precise with this shade, and I'm going to put it just right here as like a little accent. You certainly can go all over the lid, but I like, you know, kind of more softer look. So I'll use these shades as a pop of color or more in the outer corner. And I think that looks so cute, so pretty. I love these shades. I like the fact that I have the option for these very basic colors, but then these colors right here are a little bit more vibrant if I want to go in that direction. Lastly, I'm going to use the ivory shade as a highlight, and this is described as a satin. So I'm going to go in with a stiff brush, and we will use that as a beautiful inner corner highlight. These are always my favorite shades in every palette because I feel like you can pair this shade with literally everything here and just brighten up the entire look. Add a little bit right there in the center, trying not to cover up the pink. Woo, look how pretty that color is. Okay guys, I'm gonna put on some mascara and I'll be right back. All right, and here is eye look number 1. Comment down below and let me know what you think. I am filming in natural light, but I feel like this looks a little bit more vibrant on camera than it does in real life. The sun is coming in right now, so I'm gonna get a little closer just so you guys can see the really beautiful finish. Doesn't emphasize any texture or anything on the eyelids. Very, very smooth and soft, and we don't get anything too glittery, but you get some really nice illumination from the ivory shade, from the gold shade, all of like the satins and shimmers that are in the palette. I think it's really beautiful. I like these bright kind of orangey poppy shades, but if you wanted to tone it down, like I said, go in with more of like the lighter shades on the top row, and then you can use the more vibrant shades just in like the little outer corner of the eye or maybe as a liner, and I think you will be good. Okay, on to look number 2. I want to utilize some of the deeper shades in the palette. I am going to start off the look, however, once again, with that really basic transition shade, just so we can get a little bit of a base. Next, I'm going to go into this beautiful warm bronze on the bottom row. This is one of the darker shimmers in the palette, but it's still very much a neutral, like nothing too colorful. That's beautiful. It's like a very classic bronze shade. This would be perfect if you just wanted maybe something for evening, but you didn't want to, you know, use a million shadows. You could do this as kind of like a little one and done. Maybe put this shade here in the inner corner as like a highlight, and it's going on very smooth. Once again, none of these shadows are like particularly glittery or causing fallout. And that's the nice thing about the Backstage formula. I feel like it's pretty like user-friendly and easy to work with. It doesn't really require much of a learning curve. All of the colors go together and there's not any like crazy finishes like in maybe a Natasha Denona palette or something. I'm also gonna take that same shade onto the lower lash line. Using a fluffy brush, I'm gonna dip into this matte shade here. It's kind of like one of the medium to deeper warm tone brown, and I'm going to just build up a little bit of depth. The mattes are quite pigmented. They blend out quite a bit, very easily. This is going to be a talc-free formula, and they do tend to be a little bit more powdery and dry. I don't want to say dusty because that usually means something bad, but you can see right there in the pan, see how there's just like some kickback. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes with the Dior shadows, the talc-free reformulated ones, the mattes don't blend that well. Sometimes it depends on the shade, and then others like this one are perfectly fine and I have no issue with them. Sorry, I just moved my tripod a little bit so that I could stay in the natural light because it's kind of shifting throughout the day. I'm going to dip into this deeper brown in the palette. I'm going to build that up here. Yeah, it's just kind of a warm brown, and don't worry, we will blend this out, but I like to just lightly pack this on. This is a Refer number 26. Perfect for the outer V, very nice and precise, or if you have hooded eyes, this is great if you need a little bit more precision there in the outer corner. This is a very nice matte as well, no patchiness at all. Thank goodness, okay, because Dior are maybe a little inconsistent sometimes. I want to use the darkest brown in the palette as sort of a liner, build up a little bit of dimension along the lash line. So I'm going in with the flat definer from Sonia G. I'm just working that into the lash line. That's pretty. This is the only color in the palette that doesn't look warm. It's more of a cool tone, but it's a really nice sooty chocolate brown that stands out from the other warm shades in the palette and has a nice contrast so that it's not all totally warm. I'm just winging this out a tiny little bit. I got the tiniest little bit of fallout right here, so I am gonna be cleaning that up in a second, and I will blend around the edges just to make everything look blended and professional. But before I do that, I wanna add some finishing touches with this color. This one is the peach gold. So good, so good. And this is going to just kind of brighten and lighten everything up. We'll put a little right there, which contrasts beautifully with the other shades. And then also here in the inner corner. And I'm gonna melt that into the rest of the shades so that things don't look quite so heavy. And here we are. This is look number 2 with the Warm Essentials palette. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you prefer look number 1, the softer one, or look number 2? I actually really like how this look came out. This is kind of like my signature go-to, my signature luxury look. I love these types of tones, so I'm a little bit biased here. I feel like I had all the colors that I needed to create the perfect kind of soft, sultry type of eye. This is very day to night for me. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I didn't have any trouble with any of the colors. Maybe the last one or the darker one, I got a little bit of fallout, but I was able to just kind of like sweep it away and touch it up when I was doing all the finishings on this look. So let me know what you think, and with that, friends, let's get on with the rest of this review. We're gonna get into the blush next. Next up, we have the Dior Rosy Glow Blush in the new shade number 62 Bronzed Glow. This is gonna be a shimmering, toasty bronze shade. Now remember, these do have the red dye number 27. They're supposed to be color awakening or color changing. So what you see in the swatch right here might be a little bit more brown than what it's gonna look like on your cheeks. You guys will see in the demo how this turns a little bit more rosier than what you see in the pan and what you see on the swatch. Just like the eyeshadow palette, these are gonna be talc free. They're gonna be made in France. They don't have any harsh fragrance or perfume or anything like that. And also like the eyeshadow palette, I'm not quite sure if these are limited edition. It doesn't say so on the box, but these, the reformulated ones at least, they are rather new. So it's kind of hard to know when they come out with these seasonal things if they're gonna be keeping these around. I also wanted to show you guys a quick comparison with the mahogany shade that they launched previously. You might think, doesn't this look exactly like the mahogany shade? They are quite different. So here is mahogany and here is the bronze glow. And I'm just gonna put them in the sunlight here so that you can see that the bronzed glow is much lighter and it also is more shimmery, whereas the mahogany is completely matte. I gotta be honest, guys, I did not like this shade. Normally, I like bronzy blushes, but this just was not good. It was very patchy on my skin tone, really hard to blend, and the color was just a little bit muddy. So I purchased this one having high hopes, seeing that it was a little bit more shimmery and a little bit more kind of natural for my skin tone. Quick heads up as well, if you are new to these blushes, they did reformulate these a couple of months ago. I have a whole video about it, which I will link down below if you want to hear more about why they reformulated them and just kind of my thoughts on the reformulation. But they are different in formula. So if you have one of the ones for maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago, it is going to be a little bit different. The formula is a little bit drier, and obviously they do have the new shades. So those are all of the basic details, friends. Now let's get into the demo with this new blush. Going into the Bronzed Glow Blush, I'm using a Refer number 2. I usually like to use a fan brush with these because sometimes I just pick up too much. It can get a little bit patchy, and I feel like I can get a more even application when I use a fan brush, especially if it's a more pigmented or darker toned blush. So let's dive into this. This one is quite shimmery compared to some of the other ones. Look at that. Look how much I picked up. Ooh, okay. Let's do a nice little dusting there. You see how these blushes, like, they get a little bit patchy. Like, it's always difficult, even with like the lightest hand, to just apply a nice even layer. However, I'm not gonna like be dramatic here. I wanna brush it out, buff it out a little bit to see the tone that we get. It does turn a little bit pinky, you know, because these are supposed to be like the color changing blushes, but all that basically means is that they have this one red dye that just turns a pinky tone once it hits your skin. Okay, I do see it blending out. I'm gonna try my best to blend it in nicely. I don't know, I don't feel like this one is any different than the other ones I've tried in the past. Let's go in with this brush. This is a Rephr 05. It's just a traditional blush brush. I'm gonna go in with a very light hand. We'll try it on this cheek as well. Oh my gosh, I feel like I just barely dipped and I already have like that dreaded splotch right there. Okay, yeah. I like the color. I like the color. I don't like the formula of these blushes. I really think that they ruined them when they reformulated them. Maybe that is an unpopular opinion, I don't know. But I'm not liking them. I'm gonna go in up here a little bit to try and like even out the tone on my face. It's a shame because the color is really nice, but the formula just doesn't want to blend out very nicely. So you know what, I'm gonna go and take a little bit of powder, and I think that's gonna help blend around, you know, some of these like streakier parts, and I'll be right back to show you the final look with the blush. All right, so here's the blush fully applied. Comment down below and let me know what you think. I really like the color. I just wish that these blushes weren't so finicky to apply and to blend out. They can be a little bit patchy, but I do really like the color and I like the way that this tone looks on my skin. It doesn't look exactly like the color in the pan, and these blushes never do because they add that red dye 27, which gives it that kind of slightly color changing ability. So everything turns out a little bit more kind of pink and rosy. So what we have right here is this shade, but just a little bit pinker, a little bit rosier, almost like, you know, I had a tan, but then I was blushing. I think it's a really pretty shade. I like it a lot more than the mahogany shade, which was a little bit muddy on my skin tone. I'll get a little bit closer here in the direct light, friends. You can see that even though this looks like it's gonna be pretty glittery when I take a look at it in the pan, it doesn't look chunky and glittery on the skin, not at all. I don't see those glitter particles. I think it just looks really beautiful, luminous. And I do think it has kind of like a natural finish to it. Not natural in the sense that it's like the most natural color for me, but natural in the sense that it doesn't necessarily look like I'm wearing a lot of makeup, a lot of blush. So love the color, love the finish, just don't really love the application. And lastly, we have the Dior Lip Maximizer in the new shade Bronzed Glow. Just like the blush, this is gonna be a beautiful warm brown. This is described as a glitter finish, but guys, I have to disagree. I would say that this is more like a light shimmer finish. If you take a look at the swatch, this is gonna be a little bit more pigmented than some of the other lip maximizers. Not in a bad way, it's just not as translucent. Some of the other ones have a lot more glitter. And for comparison, I wanna show you guys one of my favorite shades, which is Shimmer Hazelnut. I thought that maybe this one would be similar, but they actually are quite different. Take a look at the side by side here. You will see that Shimmer Hazelnut, which is also called a glitter finish, is so deliciously glittery. And if you take a look at the side-by-side swatches, you will notice it is so much more glittery than Bronzed Glow. And also it's much more like neutral to kind of bronzy cool in tone, whereas the Bronzed Glow, this is going to be more of like a pigmented warm tone type of lip gloss. Just like the other products, I don't see that this is limited edition on the box or on the website, so I think we're safe. I have been noticing that they've been restocking a lot of the other, at least what we thought were seasonal lip gloss releases on the Dior website for the past couple of months. So it seems like even when they sell out, they have been restocking them. So that's just a little bit of information for you guys. Hopefully this will stick around. The eyeshadow palettes, not so much, but the lip glosses, it seems like we are safe. So let's get into the demo with this. Now let's apply the Bronzed Glow Lip Maximizer. Now this is not going to be as glittery as some of the other ones, but it is going to be a little bit more pigmented, more opaque, and I actually really like that about it. I have a lot of other lip maximizers that are more translucent. I feel like it makes it a little bit more worth it that it's more pigmented and more noticeable and different of a color. Let me show you guys this beautiful shade. It is a gorgeous, warm, toasty brown. This is gonna look so good on many skin tones, and it has that beautiful shine with just a little bit of shimmer, but no chunky glitter particles. I think this shade goes perfectly with the more subtle warm eye from the eyeshadow palette, and I'll get a little closer here in the direct sunlight as I've been doing, just to show you the beautiful shine, the pigmentation. It's plumping a little bit, you know, my lips are already on the full side, but I like the little bit of plumping, and you can see here it has kind of like that shimmer. It's a bit of a reflect, but not super chunky and glittery. A little bit more elegant than maybe like the holographic ones, which are fun and are also my favorite, but it is something a little bit different. So comment down below and let me know what you think of this shade. Okay, real quick before we go, I do want to share my final thoughts on each of the products, if I think they are worth the money and if I recommend them, starting off with the eyeshadow palette. I think that this is a beautiful palette. I don't think that it is particularly unique, but a lot of these Dior Backstage palettes, they're not that unique. A lot of them have very basic shades. These colors are definitely my jam. I like warm tones, and this is a warm tone palette. Sometimes we have palettes that are called warm tone and they're more like neutral to warm. I would say that this is pretty warm leaning, as you guys can see from the two looks that I created today. That being said, I really like it. I do think it is worth the money if you were looking for a luxury palette that has a nice array of shades. You're getting more shades in this than you are in the regular 5-pan Dior palettes, but you're still getting a very elegant formula. These palettes are very easy to use, very user-friendly. It's pretty hard to mess up the looks because all of the colors work together. If you're somebody that really doesn't go into deeper shades and you never reach for pops of color, then this absolutely isn't going to be worth it to you. You might want to check out the, what is it called? The warm neutrals. That one looks a lot softer and there's more neutral neutrals and then warm tone neutrals in that palette. This one is going to be a little bit different and a little bit more special. There's nothing super chunky or glittery in this. None of the shadows are patchy. It's a really beautiful palette. I think you just need to ask yourself, do you have anything like this in your collection? Because I certainly do, but I do enjoy just the overall curation of the shades. So this I do recommend. I do think it's worth it. I think it is a very nice, beautiful Backstage palette. Next up, I have the blush. Now, I don't hate this, but I don't love this, okay? You guys know I don't really like the Rosy Glow blushes. At least I don't like the new reformulation as much as the old one. I don't think that this is necessarily worth the money. I will say, however, the more I see the color on my cheeks, the more I do like it. I do really like the shade. I just feel like these are a little bit finicky to apply. They can get a little bit patchy. And so if you're somebody that doesn't have a lot of makeup brushes like I do, or you just cannot be bothered, then I don't think it is worth the money. Luxury beauty should feel very effortless, just like the eyeshadow palette, and I don't think that these blushes are particularly effortless. That is just my opinion. I will say, when I went to do this look with the smokier eye, I had to take off my eye look, I had to redo, you know, my makeup and my blush and everything, and I went back in with this blush with a softer, more like finer haired blush brush. I went in with a very, very light hand, and I did have a much easier application process. So I do think that you can improve the application depending on the brush you have. If you have a lot of makeup brushes and you really like the color of this on my cheeks and you're very intrigued and you like that it's a little bit more, you know, shimmery and glowy than the other shades in the Rosy Glow blush line, then I think it probably is worth checking out. But this is my least favorite product out of the three that I tried today. And I wouldn't recommend it to a family member or a friend because I just can't rely on it being absolutely perfect for them. If you guys are curious, I do have a blush ranking video that I made last year that's been very popular with my subscribers. If you want some other recommendations, or if you want to see me compare these blushes, the Rosy Glow ones, up against some other very popular ones in the luxury beauty sphere. And lastly, we have the Bronzed Glow Lip Maximizer. I absolutely love this thing. I think this is the most beautiful color, and you can see even after it's kind of worn away, it still leaves behind this beautiful, warm, slightly bronzy tone to my lips. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't care that it's called glittery and it's not glittery. I think it's a really beautiful shade, and I really like that it has some nice pigmentation because I totally would not have purchased this if I wasn't doing this review, full transparency, because I was like, oh, it's probably just gonna look exactly like all of the other, you know, brown tone glosses that they come out with, because they come out with new shades shades all the time. And let's be real, a lot of them look kind of same but different. I showed you before that Pure Copper and Shimmer Hazelnut look almost exactly the same, so you do have to be careful there not to waste your money. But I do think that this one is worth it. I do think that it is different enough, and this is one of my favorite lip gloss formulas. It's worth it to me, and I absolutely do recommend it. And that's all I got. I hope that you enjoyed this review today. I hope that it was helpful. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And leave me a comment down below letting me know all of your thoughts about these products. Are you interested in them? Are they way too warm for you? Do you also not really like the newly reformulated blushes? I would love to hear all of your feedback. If you are new here, consider subscribing to my channel for more new makeup reviews just like this every single week. And with that, friends, I hope that you see some beauty in your day, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.